that he has for public service and the Democratic Party, he's decided to throw his hat into the lieutenant governor's race. So I'd like to introduce you to Jimmy Tingle.
Thank you. Thank you. How about it for Alicia, ladies and gentlemen?
She's all
Oh,
right.
yeah. She's all right. She's
Who else could say that?
Thank you so
Exactly.
much.
No.
Thank you for having me, first of all. And thank you so much for your patience. I'll keep my remarks, I'll keep mine to an hour. Now, so thanks a million. Some of you know me, some of you don't. My name is Jimmy Tingle. That is my real name. I'm from Cambridge, Massachusetts originally. My dad bought our house in 1954 with the GI Bill. My mother still lives there. I went to Cambridge Public Schools. I went to UMass Dartmouth. And a few years ago, I went back to school at the Kennedy School of Government. I got a master's degree at the Kennedy School of Government. I'm an entertainer by profession. And the reason I went to the Kennedy School of Government, I was trying to figure out a way how to use entertainment for purposes beyond just entertainment. And I have to say, the great thing about going back to school in your 50s, you get the student ID and the senior discount. It's excellent. My dad was in the cab business. He owned taxi cabs growing up. Our whole family went everywhere in a cab. That was our family car. I learned a lot about business. I learned a lot about hard work. I learned a lot about, using, it was our family car. I mean, we went everywhere. Literally, one time my father, he took us hunting in the cab. And I thought we were going to the White Mountains. He brought us to Woburn. I have to say, the way I got into this is last year it was actually your breakfast, I believe. I started working with Barney Frank. And I did several events with Congressman Barney Frank. I've always tried to use comedy and entertainment, my brand of comedy, which is social and political humor. It's in the vein of Jon Stewart or Colbert or what's his name now?
I don't know who you're thinking.
You know what I mean? Bill Maher. But anyway, it's always been in the vein of trying to say something using humor. And that was my brand, but it wasn't always enough just to do jokes. I was trying to do something with it, to have a purpose behind the material. So from time to time, over the years, I've gotten involved in a lot of campaigns, clean elections, the bottle bill. I was working on for Hillary last year, but I've knocked on doors for Obama and Elizabeth Warren and Deval Patrick and right down every Democratic candidate and most of the progressive Democratic ballot questions I've got involved in, just because that's where my passion is. So last year, I was doing events with Barney Frank for Hillary Clinton. And we did JP and Newton and Brookline. And after the last one, first of all, it was great to be in a room full of people on the same page, pulling in the same direction for a common purpose. And I found it inspiring. I found it refreshing. And I didn't have to pull punches. I didn't have to pretend I was, in the middle. I could be a Democratic advocate for Democratic causes. And after the last one, I said to Barney, do you think it's too late to get into politics? He said, no, not at all. He said, let's have lunch. So we had lunch. And he said, what are you thinking about doing? I said, I want to run for office. He said, what position are you thinking? I said, I'm thinking about lieutenant governor. And without missing a beat, he said, that's exactly the position I was thinking for. He said, I think you'd be great at lieutenant governor. I said, really? He said, yes. And he encouraged me over a period of months. Long story short, Barney Frank has agreed to be our honorary chairperson for our campaign, which is huge in terms of just the credibility that I need. Because as a comic, I have to overcome the perception that it's all about entertainment and jokes. And it's not. It's a serious campaign. This is why I'm doing it. Barney knows why I'm doing it. Steve Grossman, who has come on as a supporter, knows why I'm doing it. I've helped him over the years. Tommy O'Neill, former Lieutenant Governor and Tip O'Neill's son, has come on as a supporter. They know what I'm about. They know why I'm doing it. I believe in the principles of the Democratic Party, and I believe in the power of government to change people's lives and at times actually save people's lives. During the 1980s, 1987, I lost 3 friends to alcohol and drug-related issues. And honestly, because of too much alcohol and drugs, I honestly felt like I was dying myself. And I started calling places for help. and I called rehabs and hospitals and detoxes, and I would get the same thing, same response many times. There's no beds, there's no room, there's long lines, call back next week, you don't have insurance. I called the Cambridge City Hospital, Cahill 3, they had a program there, 3 blocks from where I grew up. I called Cahill 3, and I said to the person on the other line that answered the phone, I said, I really need help. Without missing a beat, this man said, you called the right place. I went into that hospital, I stayed 7 days through Christmas, 1987, 30 years ago this month. 30 years ago this month. I went into that hospital, I stayed 7 days through Christmas, I got out, I moved to New York City, I focused on stand-up comedy and recovery. A year later, to the week, I went on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. The other guest that night was Bob Hope. I believe in miracles, I believe in God, and I believe in the power of government to change people's lives. Everything I have in my life, everything, my wife, my son, my relationship with people like yourselves, my career, everything I have was because of that man's response that day when I called for help. And I'm running for Lieutenant Governor in large measure to hopefully ensure that when anybody in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts picks up the phone and reaches out for help, the answer on the other end always will be, you called the right place. That's largely why I'm doing this. To sum up my political philosophy, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I'm a lifelong Catholic. I'm a Democrat, in my opinion, my experience, because I am a Catholic. I grew up with the Christian, the Judeo-Christian principles common to most religions, that most of us grew up with, whatever faith you are or not. Feed the hungry, house the homeless, heal the sick, visit those in prison, welcome the stranger, and I would add, fix the tea. I think it was Jesus himself. I think it was Jesus himself who once said, extend the red line to P-Town. But my point is, if we can have world-class institutes of higher learning in this state, if we can have world-class professional sports teams with the brains, the creativity, the money, the energy, we can have world-class treatment centers. We can have world-class criminal justice system. We can have world-class public transportation. Last year, 2 years ago, Peter Katusian, the sheriff of Middlesex County, invited me up to the the Bill of Record House of Correction to speak to the inmates on recovery issues and just do some entertainment as well. And after I was speaking with the serious thing and the entertainment, I just started to do a Q&A with them, and I started to ask them questions. I said, what do you guys need when you leave here? And they weren't trying to be funny. And one man raises his hand and says, a ride? Another guy says, a place to stay. Another person says, a job. How can we expect people to come out of 2, 3 years, 5 years of incarceration and they don't have a ride or a place to stay or a job? We can do better. We have to do better. And we have to look at these issues as national defense issues. Right? Broaden the definition of national defense. Healthcare, a form of national defense. Drug treatment, a form of national defense. Reentry reform, another form of national defense. Education, a form of national defense. This is where we're losing people. This is where we're losing the potential in the country and in the state. I have been so lucky as a comic, okay? And this is one of the reasons why. We live in a free country, in a free society. Jay was fantastic. I loved listening to him. I learned a lot listening to him. He's so comprehensive. He has so much experience in state government. This is my first time running for office. But these are my general themes. The reason that the comedy boom took off in this country and that a whole industry was created out of basically nothing. Not government planned. We have freedom. We had educated. Kids went to public schools for the most part. Not all of them, but many of them. Jerry Seinfeld, Larry David. You look at all the successful comics that are out there, Jimmy Fallon, all these people, Conan O'Brien. Most of them went to public schools and they signed up. There was no barrier to entry to try stand-up comedy. No barrier to entry. The barrier to entry was you go into the club and you sign a piece of paper and you go on an open mic night. And you can try, you can experiment, you can fail, you can succeed, and you practice, and you practice, and you practice, and you can develop a craft. And you can say anything you want, right? Imagine if the barrier to entry, we're talking about the trades, imagine if the barrier to entry to be a plumber, or an electrician, or a roofer was you go in and you sign up, and you can start an apprenticeship, or you can start to learn how to do it, or to be a filmmaker, or a scientist, or whatever the issue is, whatever your passion is. If people follow their passions, they're going to be better workers, they're going to fulfill their potential as human beings, they're going to be happy in their jobs, right? They say that if you find a job, that if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. That's a wonderful thing. I've loved my job as an entertainer, but after this last election, I said, I got to do more. I went to the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. I can do more. I might not win, but I can do more, and I'm going to try, and that's why I'm doing it. And the best thing about running for office, for me, I'm not thinking about Donald Trump. I'm not thinking about Donald Trump every day. I'm not saying he doesn't cross my mind, but I'm not obsessing about him. I'm thinking about how we can make a better Massachusetts. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking all the time, how are we going to deal with reentry? How are we going to deal with substance abuse? How are we going to deal with these subjects? That's what I'm thinking about. I loved what Jay said about people in their silos, and and one hand, the right hand doesn't know what the left is doing. Last year, I had a friend of the family. I went to visit him, and he's incarcerated, and he got out, and then he's in these sober houses, right? And these sober houses they're okay. Some of them are really good, but some of them are unregulated. They got 10, 15, 20 guys in one house. The guy who owns the house is making a lot of money, right? They're paying $200-300 a week. They're going to cook their own meals. There's no rides to meetings, right, or 12-step programs. There's it just could be much better. And the right hand doesn't always know what the left is doing when people get out. I went to a homeless court the other day in Cambridge. They have a homeless court. It's kind of funny, actually. I'll just tell you briefly. I get up early in the morning. I go out for a walk. I'm up in Harvard Square. And so I got my hoodie on, and I got my my hat on, and I'm walking at a brisk pace for about an hour. And I get to the place, and I'm kind of sweaty, so I take the hat off. My hair's all sticking up. And I walk into the homeless court, and the homeless people say to me, "Are you looking for treatment?" I said, "No, I'm running for lieutenant governor." But my point is, and the homeless is a very innovative program where the homeless are going to court. They've been arrested for petty things, and the police don't want to send them to jail, but they want to help them. And it was great. But I just think it's things like that. We have to be innovative. We have to get people on the same page so the right hand is knowing what the left is doing in terms of criminal justice, in terms of sober houses, in terms of just people being notified when people are released from jail. Where are they? What are they doing? How are they going to make a living? Things like this. We have to equip people when they're coming out of these places. And we can't help everybody. The reality is, unless the person is willing, unless the person displays willingness, we can't do anything. And I say this for this friend of our family, right? He's still out there. He's at the Pine Street Inn. He's homeless. His mother works 3 jobs. When I say I'm doing this, sometimes I go, why am I going to do this? I think of her. I think of her working 3 jobs, and I think of people like her and like that kid who it's just going to help a lot of people. It's just going to help a lot of people. And if we can create a system in the state of Massachusetts that helps these type of people and put more resources into it, more goodwill into it, more accountability into it, I think we can make a lot of progress. Because you take one of these, and the reason I'm talking about this one the most is because I have the most experience with it, and it also touches everybody. With the opioid crisis, it touches Republicans, Democrats, rich people, black people, white people, poor people. It touches everybody, right? And I think we could do a lot of good if one person is changed by recovery. One person, it's like an economic stimulus plan. The person is no longer a tax liability. They become a tax asset. They're paying taxes. They're working. It helps them. It helps their parents. It helps their kids. It helps their employers, and it helps the police. The police love it when people are not using alcohol and drugs anymore, and that's what we need to do. We need to bring everybody into the solution. But the thing about the Donald Trump is, I'm trying to work towards something positive in the state. And I've been asked, well, what is your goal? What is your goal with running for lieutenant governor? My goal running for lieutenant governor is people are obsessing about Trump. Well, Trump this and Trump that, and the Republicans this, the Republicans. You don't like Donald Trump? You don't like the Republican Party? You want to send a message to the Republican Congress or the Senate or the Republican governors around the state? Vote for a Democrat in Massachusetts. Send a Democrat to the corner office in Massachusetts. That's what we can do. I can't change anybody in Washington, but I can work on behalf of the Democratic Party in the state of Massachusetts and help elect people who are running for office in this state. That much I can do. And whatever the results are, but at least we can try.